Have you ever just stopped and thought about how wild the human body is? I mean, we're all built from the same basic instruction manual, but that manual produces over 200 completely different kinds of cells. You get these super long, stringy neurons, and then you have these powerful muscle cells that bunch up and relax. They're so different, but they all come from the same place. So what's the deal? What's the secret sauce inside these cells that lets them be so specialized? What is giving each one its unique shape, its ability to move, and letting it do its own special job? Well, the answer is this incredible dynamic scaffolding hiding inside every single one of them. And it's called the cytoskeleton. Now, the easiest way to think about it is like the frame of a house, right? It provides structure, holds everything up. But here is where it gets absolutely mind-blowing. Imagine if the frame of your house could instantly tear itself down and rebuild itself, allowing the house to crawl across the street or split into two identical smaller houses. That's what the cytoskeleton does. It's amazing. All right, so here's our game plan for this explainer. We're going to start with a quick overview of this dynamic skeleton. Then we'll meet the three main players. That's actin, microtubulus, and intermediate filaments. And finally, we'll see how the whole team works together. Okay, first up, let's get the lay of the land. This incredible internal network isn't just one thing. Nope, it's actually a team effort made up of three very different kinds of protein filaments. So, meet the team. You've got actin filaments, they're the thinnest of the bunch. Then you have the intermediate filaments, our, middleweights. And finally, the microtubules, the thickest, most heavy-duty members of the crew. And as you are about to see, their size is a perfect giveaway for what they actually do inside the cell. Let's start with our first player, actin. It might be the thinnest filament, but seriously, do not underestimate it. Actin is all about action. It's the primary force behind cellular movement and change. Actin is just so versatile. It's made of two little strands that twist together, and they form this dynamic spider-web-like mesh right underneath the cell's outer membrane. This web is what lets our muscles contract when it works with its partner protein, myosin. It's also what gives a cell the power to crawl around, and, this is a big one, it forms the ring that literally pinches a cell in two when it divides. Want to see it in action? Okay, picture a white blood cell that needs to get to an infection. To get out of the bloodstream, its actin filaments just start rapidly building themselves in one direction. This pushes the cell membrane out, creating this little false foot. That foot jams itself into a tiny gap between the blood vessel cells, and then whoop, the rest of the cell just squeezes right through. Honestly, the best way to picture this is to think about squeezing between two poles in a fence to sneak into an amusement park. That is a perfect way to visualize how these cells get through impossibly tight spaces, and it's all thanks to the power of actin. All right, we've met the nimble movers and shakers. Now, let's meet the heavy lifters. Next up are microtubules. These are the thickest filaments in the cytoskeleton, and they act as the cell's heavy infrastructure. We're talking highways and support beams. So these are basically strong, hollow tubes that stretch out across the whole cell. And their jobs? Absolutely crucial. They serve as railroads for moving cargo from place to place. They provide structural support, kind of like steel beams that keep the cell from getting crushed. They play a huge role in cell division by forming the fibers that pull chromosomes apart. They even make up the core of cilia and flagella, those little tails that let some cells swim around. So how do these cellular railroads actually work? It is so cool. There are these specialized motor proteins, and they have awesome names like kinesin and dynein that literally walk along these microtubule tracks. They carry little bubbles called vesicles that are stuffed with important cargo, and they walk them step by step to exactly where they need to go in the cell. And their job in cell division is just beautiful. During that process, you can think of the microtubules as microscopic fishing lines. They cast out from a central point, they hook onto a chromosome, and then they just reel it in. That is how the cell makes sure that each new daughter cell gets a perfect, complete copy of the DNA. Okay, so we've got movement and we've got transport. Now it's time for pure, raw strength and stability. And that is the job of our final player, the intermediate filaments. The way these things are built tells you everything you need to know. They are constructed just like a rope, with tons of protein threads woven together to create incredible strength. Now, this makes them way less dynamic than actin or microtubules, but they are exceptionally tough and durable. Their main purpose is basically to be the cell's anchor. Intermediate filaments lock down important things, like the nucleus, and keep them in place.
They also connect cells to each other, creating stable tissues like your skin. At the end of the day, they're there to resist stress and keep the cell and the whole tissue from being ripped apart. And get this, unlike the other two, intermediate filament isn't just one thing. It's a whole family name for a bunch of different proteins. You can just see a few of them here. For instance, you've got keratins, which make up your hair and nails. You have neurofilaments, which give support to those long nerve cells. And you've got lamins, which form a protective mesh cage right around the nucleus. So, we've met all the individual players on the team. Now, let's pull it all back together and see how this amazing trio works as one single system. This little table really says it all, doesn't it? You've got actin, the thinnest, acting like a spider's web for movement. You have the thickest, microtubules, serving as railroads and beams for transport and support. And then holding the whole thing together, you've got the intermediate filaments, the ropes that provide brute strength and anchoring. So look, if you take away just one thing today, let it be this. The skeleton is not a static, boring scaffold. It is a living, breathing network that is constantly building itself up and tearing itself down. That dynamic nature is what makes life possible. It allows cells and us to live, to move, and to grow. When you really think about it, this inner skeleton defines the shape and function of pretty much every form of life we know. And that leads to a huge question. As we get better and better at understanding this unbelievably complex system, could we one day learn to control it? Could we actually reshape the future of medicine by tackling diseases right where they start, at the level of the cytoskeleton itself?